The piercing ring of my alarm jolted me awake as I scrambled to silence it. The unfamiliar surroundings slowly came into focus. The minimalist bedroom furnishings, the walk-in closet, now crammed with another woman's clothes. My wife's clothes. No, this luxurious penthouse was still foreign to me, even if last night was supposed to be the start of a glorious new chapter. My storybook wedding to Everett felt so surreal now in the light of day. I rubbed my eyes and reached across the massive bed, finding only cold sheets where my dashing groom should have been. The clock showed it was already 9:00 a.m. Where was Everett? I shuffled groggy to the kitchen, lured by the rich aroma of fresh coffee. That's when I saw him, a rugged stranger standing by the fancy espresso machine, his faded jeans and crumpled tee a stark contrast to the sleek opulence that surrounded us. He gave me a dimpled grin. "Oh, hey, you must be the new wife. There's enough espresso here for both of us," he said. I stood frozen, staring blankly as an awkward silence descended before footsteps echoed down the hall. Everett's mother, Marcella, strode in, wearing a severe pantsuit and an even more severe expression. Her deep-set eyes flicked dismissively over me before landing on the stranger with a scowl. I told you to never show your face here again. Get out before I call security," Marcella snarled. The stranger's grin evaporated. "I still live here too, Mother," he said coldly. "You can just wish me away, Mother." Then it hit me. This was Leo, Everett's estranged twin brother. Everett had conveniently failed to mention Leo even existed, along with neglecting to invite him to our wedding. Marcella looked ready to spit venom. "We made ourselves clear, Leo. You disgraced this family for the last time with your reckless ways. Consider yourself disowned." Leo slammed his mug down. Coffee sloshed over the edges, staining the pristine marble countertops. "You ruined my damn life, but fine. If you want me gone so badly," he shoved past Marcella, pausing only to toss a sympathetic glance my way. "I'd escape while you still can, sweetheart," he said, heading for the door. Slammed deafeningly loud in his wake. My heart pounded as I stood there in my negligee, still struggling to process this bombshell of a morning. Marcella composed herself before leveling her glare at me. "Come now, we have guests arriving shortly," she purred with artificial pleasantry. "I expect you properly dressed and on your best behavior, representing this family." Her threatening tone made it clear she meant business. I swallowed hard. The fairy tale veil had been violently ripped away, exposing the dysfunction and deceit lurking underneath. In one fell swoop, the in-laws I barely knew had become cold strangers. Everett was still nowhere to be seen, while his twin brother's ominous warning rang in my ears. This was not the honeymoon morning I had envisioned, but I sensed the real nightmare was only just beginning. Over the next few weeks, I made every effort to ingratiate myself into the family, still clinging to my fantasy of newlywed bliss. I plastered on a smile despite Marcella's constant criticism and Everett's emotional distance. He spent most evenings working late, while his mother nitpicked my cooking, cleaning, even how I dressed. "No daughter-in-law of mine will be so useless," she snapped whenever I failed to meet her ridiculous standards. "You should be catering to my son's needs, not gallivanting about uselessly." I had given up my career and social life specifically to play devoted housewife to Everett. Now I was just an unwilling servant to his tyrannical mother. The final straw came early one Saturday when I emerged fresh-faced to make Everett his favorite pancakes. I found Marcel already bustling about the kitchen. "Oh, don't bother yourself, dear," she said with fox concern. "I didn't want you exerting yourself. Why don't you relax?" My fists clenched around the whisk I was holding. "This is my household, too. Please allow me march." Marcella's eyes flashed dangerously, but she stepped aside as I mixed the batter. She remarked, "Gaining a few pounds already. You should be more careful. Men can be so very vain." I gasped, nearly dropping the bowl. Before I could respond, she breezed out with one last jab. Do tidy yourself before Everett wakes. We wouldn't want him to lose interest." The insinuation was like a slap in the face. As I mindlessly spooned batter onto the griddle, tears blurred my vision. I had weathered their abuse for weeks now without complaint. But the Everett I loved would never stand for this. Why hadn't he intervened or confronted his mother about her horrible behavior? Speak of the devil, Everett emerged freshly showered, ignoring me as he scrolled through his phone. I watched him closely. "Everything okay?" Everett asked vaguely, not glancing up. I wiped furiously at my eyes, voicing the thought consuming me. "Now don't you even care that she talks to me that way?" My voice broke despite my resolve. Everett blinked in surprise. "Who, your mother?" I cried. "She insults me every chance she gets, and you don't even notice." Sighing, he set his phone aside. "I'm sure you're exaggerating. She only wants what's best. What's best for you, her precious son." I cut him off angrily. "Meanwhile, she's turning me into a slave around here. I can't keep playing nice." Everett's expression darkened. "Avalon, that's extremely unfair. She welcomed you into our home when you had nobody. You owe her respect." He shook his head in disgust. "I can't talk to you when you're hysterical like this." "Everett, wait." My voice cracked, but the bedroom door had already slammed shut behind him. Hot, furious tears streamed down my cheeks. In a few short weeks, my husband had become an indifferent stranger under his witch mother's spell. Maybe Leo had warned me for a reason, if only I had listened. Suddenly suspicious, I rifled through Everett's desk drawers while he was out. Buried amongst credit card bills, I found photos of Everett with a glamorous blonde. They were nuzzling at a seaside resort, her flashy ring conspicuous on their intertwined hands. The pancake batter solidified in the bowl, forgotten. Leo was right to tell me to escape this madness. Perhaps it was time I finally listened. I raced out of the suffocating penthouse, photos clutched in one trembling hand. The evidence of Everett's betrayal felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I blinked back furious tears as I aimlessly wandered the city streets. How could I have been so stupid, so naive? Everett had spun a silken web of lies, ensnaring me as his picture-perfect bride, and I had smiled obliviously through it all like some die-heroine. Well, not anymore. Avalon the pushover was gone. From her ashes would rise a warrior, someone Marcella and Everett would rue crossing. Lost in vengeful thoughts, I didn't notice the burly figure until we collided. Strong hands gripped my shoulders, steadying me. I froze as I took in the familiar face. "We have to stop meeting like this," Leo said, wryly behind his casual tone. His green eyes were shadowed with concern. "What are you doing out here alone?" On impulse, I thrust the incriminating photos at Leo. He studied them intently, brow furrowed. "I guess congratulations are in order," he finally said. "How does it feel to become another of my brother's disposable playthings?" His words stabbed painfully at the fresh wound, threatening to undo my resolve. I forced strength into my voice. "Everett will regret the day he used me so callously, and that witch Marcella will wish she never laid a hand on me either." Leo let out an impressed whistle. Well, well, kitten shows her claws. I wouldn't want to be on your bad side." His amusement faded quickly, though, his expression turning solemn. "In all seriousness, Avalon, you need to get away while you still can." I bristled, stung by his doubts. "After steeling myself for revenge, you think I can't handle them?" "Oh, I know you can," Leo said. "In fact, I think you could destroy that entire crooked family. But it's also guaranteed mutually assured destruction." He gazed at me intently. "I've seen their games firsthand, how they use people up like disposable assets to further their own selfish interests." Pain creased the corners of his eyes. When I confronted Mother about her shady dealings, she convinced my own twin to turn against me. My anger wavered at the ache in his voice. This wasn't just a cautionary fable. It was Leo's lived trauma at my new in-laws' hands. Noticing my sympathy, he added gently, "I know how intoxicating their web of lies can be, how easy it is to get drawn in and trapped." He squeezed my shoulder. "Don't waste any more time on them, Avalon. Just get out before you lose yourself, too." His compassion pierced my brewing storm of fury and bitterness. But no, I had already lost too much. My reputation, my self-worth, my identity. I needed to take it back, no matter the cost. I lifted my chin, new steely resolve flooding my veins. "I appreciate your concern, Leo, but I won't be scared off so easily. Your family hurt me deeply. Now they'll face the consequences." With unexpected fierceness, I pulled Leo into a brief, hard hug. Then I strode off without looking back, more determined than ever to make Everett and Marcella pay. I returned to the penthouse, bursting with self-righteous fury, ready to unleash it on Everett and his wicked mother. But I found only an empty apartment, echoing with ghosts of my dashed dreams. Fine, if those cowards wanted to hide from confronting me, I would take advantage of their absence. I rifled through Marcella's home office, gathering financial statements and copying files off her computer onto a flash drive. My future mother-in-law's shady real estate schemes would be the lethal ammunition I needed. Just as I finished, footsteps sounded outside. I hastily crammed the flash drive into my pocket just as Everett entered, his mother conspicuously absent. My husband swept his judging gaze over the chaotic scene. "What are you doing in Mother's office?" I forced nonchalance into my voice. "Oh, just familiarizing myself since we share everything now." I held his stare coolly. "Don't we, Everett?" His lips thinned. "Is this about those ludicrous accusations earlier? You ransacking private property isn't exactly helping your mental state." I bristled as he went on. "Mother thinks, and I'm starting to agree, that the stress of this transition has been too much for you emotionally. Perhaps we rushed into this marriage." His words landed like physical blows. After all I had endured from him and his toxic mother, now he was suggesting. I was the problem here, blinded by outrage. I grabbed a heavy paperweight off Marcella's desk and hurled it viciously against the wall. It hit with a resounding crash, leaving a sizable dent. "How dare you?" My voice shook with fury and anguish. "You bring me into your family under false pretenses. You stand by while your mother ridicules and abuses me." I stabbed an accusing finger at Everett. "You betray our marriage vows through ongoing affairs. Then you accuse me of being mentally unwell." I tore the blonde woman's photo from my pocket and brandished it, making Everett visibly pale. Got him, I thought, straightening my shoulders. This destructive dynamic ends today. You and your toxic mother don't own or control me any longer. I shoved past Everett, pausing at the doorway to deliver my parting blow. Consider this my line in the sand. I won't be caught off guard again when you inevitably cross it. I let my words sink in before walking away with my head held high. The time had come to launch my counterattack on Everett and Marcella for daring to use and abuse me. My marching orders were clear: destroy the source. I hastily packed my essentials, anxious to quit this toxic residence for good. As I rifled through my things, I uncovered items I had treasured during my brief marriage. Photo booth strips of Everett and I giggling together, the engraved Tiffany bracelet he gifted to my lovely wife. Bile rose in my throat. I swept the sentimental debris off the dresser violently, taking grim satisfaction from the noisy clatter. Let the maids deal with this false evidence tainting Everett's perfectly curated image, I thought. My raging thoughts were interrupted by a gentle clearing of the throat. I whirled around defensively before recognizing the sympathetic face of Sophia, one of the longtime housekeepers. "Sorry to disturb you, Mrs. Avalon," Sophia said. "I just wanted to say if you need any help, I'm here." I studied the older woman uncertainly. Why would a staff member risk defying her tyrannical employers to assist me? But Sophia's kind eyes held no deception. I decided to take a chance. "Did you know," I asked bluntly, "about Everett's affairs and his mother's abuse?" Sophia nodded shamefaced. "Mrs. Marcella ensures our discretion, but please know I never condone their behavior." She hesitated before adding quietly, "Several former wives confided in me before receiving their severance packages." I absorbed this with dawning horror and clarity. My initial blind rage had narrowed my focus, but Sophia grounded me in the stark reality of this pattern of mistreatment. I was hardly the first to suffer this cruel cycle, merely the latest victim. If I didn't act decisively, I grabbed Sophia's hands urgently. "I can't let them keep doing this, but I'll need proof to expose them. Letters, photos, documentation." I held her earnest gaze. "You've seen things, Sophia. With your help, we could end this toxic cycle for good." Sophia studied me for a long moment before giving a firm nod. "Gather your evidence and do what must be done," she declared boldly. I should have spoken up long ago. Now we make this right. We quickly formulated a plan. With the family conveniently out of town, Sophia would secretly retrieve incriminating items from their offices while I moved out unnoticed. She would bring the evidence to Leo, who could help bring legal repercussions against his abusive family members. At last I felt fully in control again, for the first time since entering the Williamson family's web of deceit. No more the powerless, pitiable victim. Now I commandeered my own rescue mission. The revelation of Everett and Marcella's transgressions would be my hard-won vengeance, a dish best served cold after simmering to perfection. I smiled grimly to myself. My soon-to-be ex-husband had no idea the formidable enemy he had created. The avenging Avalon would be his reckoning, and this time, good would definitively triumph over evil. Safely moved into Leo's modest apartment, I eagerly sorted through the mounting evidence Sophia had smuggled out of the lavish penthouse that was once my prison. "Look at this," I told Leo excitedly, stacking meticulously labeled folders on his scare kitchen table. Bank statements confirming the money Marcel embezzled from family trusts, deleted emails proving Everett's affairs. "Is that tacky blonde?" I grabbed Leo's arm, meeting his uncertain gaze fiercely. "It's all here, enough to dismantle their web of lies and bring them to justice." Leo gently extracted himself from my impassioned grip. "This is really impressive, Avalon," he said carefully, "but are you sure this is just about justice for you?" My enthusiasm faltered slightly as I registered the searching quality of Leo's stare. "Exposing crimes was your original intention," he continued, "but it kind of seems now like you just want to completely destroy them." His tone held no judgment, just open concern. I bristled, crossing my arms defensively. "Trust me, after everything your family put me through, they deserve nothing less than complete annihilation." Leo held up his hands, pleadingly. "Hey, you definitely have the right to feel angry and vengeful." I fantasized about revenge on Mother myself enough times. A shadow crossed his handsome features at unpleasant memories. "I just want you to search your own motives, Avalon," he said gently. "If this is just about retaliating harm with more harm, that's not real justice, and it rarely resolves pain long-term." I bit my lip, considering his words. Was I letting bitterness consume me, blinding me from what I truly sought? Did I want the catharsis of watching Marcel and Everett suffer, or did I actually want to be finally free of them? Just then, my phone vibrated with an incoming text from Sophia, confirming the family's return flight had landed. I made my decision in that instant. "You make good points, Leo," I acknowledged, "but right now, action is what's needed. I'll have plenty of time for soul-searching later." I flashed him a determined look. Today we strike back against injustice and abuse. "Are you still in?" Leo studied me a moment longer before slowly nodding. "You're clearly committed to this, and someone has to be there to pick up the pieces when it inevitably explodes." He squeezed my hand, green eyes boring intensely into mine. Just promise you'll consider what I said about motives and unintended harm." Appreciating his faith despite reservations, I laced my fingers through Leo's. "I promise. This is the right thing," I vowed urgently. "Now let Operation Annihilate begin." Everything was in place. I had secretly moved my essential belongings to Leo's apartment while the family jetted off on a glitzy Aspen vacation. Meanwhile, Sophia smuggled a damning cache of evidence tying Marcela and Everett to fraud and abuse. My allies and I were armed and ready for the imminent attack. When Marcela texted imperiously, summoning me for brunch upon their Aspen return, I knew the time had come. I applied my armor, a body-hugging red dress and flawless makeup, rendering me nearly unrecognizable from the cowed bride they had delighted in tormenting. I strode into the lavish penthouse, wielding a confident smile that didn't reach my icy eyes. Marcela and Everett awaited at the decadent dining table laden with food. Looking similarly polished and poised, my antagonist and his co-conspirator. Marcela greeted me with thin-lipped courtesy. "Do sit down, Avalon. We have serious matters to discuss." I remained standing, spine ruler straight. "Oh, I won't be staying long," I purred sweetly, relishing their confusion. "I just wanted to see your faces." When I delivered my good news, I theatrically held up my left hand, bare of any jewelry. Realization dawned on Everett first. "What have you done?" he hissed, half rising from his seat. Behind him, I noticed Sophia hovering surreptitiously, ready to intercept any violence. I smiled victoriously. "While you jet-setters wintered in Aspen, I did some traveling of my own. To the bank, securing my rightful assets. Then to the courthouse, filing divorce petitions, citing chronic infidelity." My gaze raked scornfully over Everett. An emotional abuse. Marcel lurched to her feet, face mottled with rage. "You conniving little." I silenced her with one sharp gesture. "Save the slander for court, where you'll also have the chance to explain the financial crimes detailed in these documents." On cue, Leo entered and slapped folders containing their incriminating activity onto the table. Horrified understanding sparked in my adversary's eyes. "Checkmate. You'll be hearing from my attorneys regarding your unlawful schemes and our divorce settlement," I pronounced calmly. "Have your lawyers call them to arrange your surrender. Although, with the thorough evidence against you, I doubt you'll avoid significant jail time." I let that sink in with satisfaction. We had them cornered at last, these loathsome snakes I had once thought family. Justice would soon be served. I spared one last contemptuous glance for Everett and Marcella's shell-shocked faces before striding out gracefully, head high. The dragon had been triumphantly slain. Time for this warrior to ride into the sunset along her new path. I rolled over with a blissful sigh, warm sunshine bathing my face instead of the cavernous penthouse that had been my prison. I awoke in Leo's cozy second bedroom. No toxic people or memories lingered here to torment me, only my newfound freedom. Leo appeared bearing 2 mugs of fragrant coffee. Accepting mine with a grateful smile, I declared impulsively, "Let's go to the beach today." Leo nearly choked mid-sip in surprise before chuckling. "Well, someone is clearly enjoying their liberation. What prompted this?" I stretched lazily, higher spirits than I'd felt in ages infusing me. The thought just occurred to me that I can actually do whatever I want now without asking permission. It was true. The permanent clouds of fear and uncertainty had finally lifted. I had broken decisively from Everett and Marcella. Now, awaiting sentencing thanks to the overwhelming evidence Leo and I provided, my lawyers were ruthlessly pursuing both the divorce and criminal restitution I deserved. Meanwhile, Sophia and other staff had surfaced with their own grievances. Yesterday I received a call that the family company would be permanently dissolving under the weight of lawsuits and criminal probe. No sympathetic connections or crisis PR could save the disgraced mother and son. Now karma comes for us all eventually. Leo remarked when I shared the news. His expression turned solemn. Still, seeing Everett's life unravel this way is harder than I expected. He's still my twin, you know. I covered his hand gently, acknowledging the pain and history only Leo fully understood. You got such a big heart behind that gruff exterior, I said, and Leo just grunted ambiguously. Yeah, well, guess we both turned out as the black sheep. Rising from ashes, a slow, genuine smile warmed his rugged features. At least neither of us is alone anymore. No, we're not alone. I agree contentedly. Together we had faced pain and adversity, emerging indelibly bonded and renewed. I had arrived broken and bent. Now confidence and conviction ran through my veins. I had reclaimed myself, then helped Leo do the same for himself. And there was power and beauty in our shared resilience. Later that sunny afternoon we strolled down the beach, salty breeze kissing our smiling faces with the promise of brighter days ahead. My battle was over, justice served. The only path now was purposefully forward, side by side. Leo and I left 2 trails of footprints in the wet sand, evidence that we had been here and refused to be erased. Proof that even the next waves couldn't completely wipe our slate clean. We would carry both damage and redemption forever, but at least we weren't traveling alone anymore, and that made even scars look beautiful in their own way.